Welcome to Ilagan Whiteboard Friday, where we look at complex legal and compliance issues in a simple to do ways. This series is brought to you by Ilagan, your partner and provider of end-to-end business services.
Hello and welcome to Ilagan Whiteboard Friday, where we look at various tax and compliances issues in a user-friendly manner. So you have started your company and now you are on the verge of hiring your first employee. So let's look at what all things it takes to hire your first employee. See, hiring has always been a great decision because you need right set of talent to help your organization grow. So it is very important that you have the world-class and best practices so that you can attract the best of talents apart from salary. Startups and mid-sized companies typically are not able to pay a very high salary. So it really takes a lot of other things that goes on so that you can attract the good talents, the best one which can actually help you grow the company. Now, some of the legal and compliance things that you need to make sure that you have them so that you are completely clean are 10 so that you can deduct proper TDS from the salaries that you pay. 10 registration, if you don't have, take it. Professional tax, this is a tax applicable in multiple states, not all the states in India. So again, check whether a professional tax is applicable on your state or not, and if you don't have it, then you need to take. ESI comes once you cross 10 people, so may not be very crucial on day one, but you should be, this is something you should be aware of. Same thing, PF comes into picture when you cross 20 people. And there is something called shops and establishment. These are like kind of labor licenses. We have covered all these topics in fairly detail, so to know what all this means and when you should be going for it, please look at our other Whiteboard Friday videos on all these topics. Now once you have all these things, now you should also be having a template or a kind of customized appointment letter which would act as a template for all your employees. So an appointment letter consists of multiple things including your organizational policies. So these are few things that you should be deciding on before you take a call. One is the leave policy, how many leaves you will have, how many national holidays, how the employees can take a leave, all those policies related to that. You should decide on that. Data security is a crucial thing which a lot of people don't understand. So typically in IT sector and stuff, if you look, then data security is something you should be worried about, because also nowadays with the laptops and mobile devices growing popularity, we have started giving all our employees mobiles and laptops. So it is very important that you know what all things, or what happens if the mobile gets stolen, or what would happen if a laptop gets stolen or a broken thing, what are the responsibilities of an employee, what all things he is able to do on the organizational network or outside organization. All these things are covered by a data security, so talk to an expert to derive a great data security policy. You should have various reimbursements. I would cover that a little more in detail. Other facilities, what you would like to offer to your employees, for example, medical insurance, travel policy, any other facilities, for example, say laptop or a mobile, whom you will give, what all connections, internet, telephone, all these things. So what all things you would give. You may also define various grades. We will discuss about it a little later. Bonus and performance appraisal. So how the employees would get rewarded for their various good contribution. How the performance appraisal process would be there. How performance monitoring, data collection, activity reporting. So a little bit discussion and some notes as to how you would be doing this would good to have, because many employees, especially the smart ones, once they approach you, they are also worried about these policies, how the employee, because many times we commit you will get this much bonus, or we will do a performance appraisal before, but before they take a call to join you, they also want to know what are our performance appraisal processes, practices, what policies we follow, what are the timelines, this thing. Then notice period, like for any terminations, how much notice one can give. Will it be a week notice from both the side, or it would be a differential notice from different side, or it can be 3 months, 6 months, 2 months. So what notice period? We should take various factors into account, that in case if the employee is not doing great, we should not have a 6 months liability ki you fire him and pay them 6 months salary, or if or even a very high notice period employees don't want. So typically anywhere between a week to 3 months depending on organizational need. An HR expert can also help you guide on this, how you should derive at a notice period amount. Then there is something called non-disclosure agreement, which is very crucial. This also relates to a kind of data security, but data security revolves more around the usage of laptop and mobile devices, what kind of data it can store, how the employees can use it, and related policies. Whereas non-disclosure agreement goes much more beyond. It is also called IP invention and assignment agreement at places. So IP invention and assignment more goes with the employees, and NDAs more goes with the consultant. So this discovers like what all data they will have access to, how they can use it, how much breathing period would be there in case of a termination, how long they cannot use any of the data, what would be the rights of IP assignment, and like how the intellectual property would be identified, on whose name it would be registered, what would be the claim for each parties. All these things are covered in NDA and IP invention and assignment agreement. And salary structuring, so this is very important. Salary structuring is something which is greatly needed by startups and mid-sized company. It is important that you consult an expert so that you arrive at a great structure which is acceptable by the law, and also it helps saves a lot of taxes for the employees. So overall they get a higher take-home salary. So even if they are giving them a 10 lakh salary, if they end up paying say 3 lakh taxes or 2 lakh taxes, it becomes very high. So are there ways where you can cleanly do a salary structuring? So salary structuring will also cover a lot of various reimbursements, other facilities that we discussed about. So it is good to consult an expert and arrive at a standard salary structure. You can have various grades of employees where you can define, okay, if an employee falls under this grade, they will have one kind of a structure, employee under different grade, because an employee in say under 5 lakh category and an employee under above say 20-30 lakh category cannot have a similar structure because it really does not make sense. The tax implications, the number of overheads. At the same time, while giving various reimbursement, we have to look at what are the organizational roles and responsibility, because ultimately it is company's responsibility to deduct proper taxes and pay to the government. So salary structuring is important. We also help people in setting up all these things and hiring your first employees. So you can talk to us, or you can talk to an expert on HR, legal and tax related domain, so that you arrive at best of the policies. ESOP policy. ESOP is very common because as you create wealth for the company, it is equally important that you reward employees with a great wealth, because you are not able to offer too much of salary. So ESOP is an important thing in startups and mid-size. So again, a good ESOP policy which is universally accepted, is in line with the best of practices, is very important. So you should have an ESOP policy. And then you should also think of setting up a regular payroll. We will discuss that in much more detail, what is setting up a payroll deals. So these are few things that you should take into account when hiring your first employee. And it is very, very important to have best of practices, because whenever you are raising money, or even when you are dealing with various stakeholders like investors, employees and related parties, they all look at these kind of policies. This is also a part of, many of them is also a part of due diligence, which decide whether you have the best of practices or not. If not, then there are challenges and it takes a lot of time to implement new policies and practices. So try to get a good expert advice and then decide on this thing. That's it on hiring your first employee. Thanks for attending eLagan Whiteboard Friday. If you have more queries, you can always reach us at support@elagan.com, or you can also check out our extensive knowledge base at http elagan.com/kb. Thank you.